Unless Trump changes track, we are heading for a self-induced economic nuclear winter, and we should start hunkering down. So it says, what CEO and what board of directors will be comfortable making large long-term economic commitments in our country in the middle of an economic nuclear war? Said the president is losing the confidence of business leaders around the globe. Capitalists start looking at Donald Trump like, bro, what are you doing? Stop. You said you were going to make America great again. For us. We're supposed to be the Carnegies and the Rothschilds and the Morgans. And you're trying to send us to that poorhouse where we're just multimillionaires instead of billionaires. No. So Donald Trump has decided to put tariffs everywhere. Tariffs here, tariffs there, tariffs everywhere. Donald Trump has become the Oprah Winfrey of tariffs. You get a tariff. You get a tariff. You get a tariff. Everybody gets a tariff. Yay! And so that's what happened. And then people got nervous. Particularly corporations got nervous. Stockbrokers got nervous. People in the financial sector, they were like, Donnie, I don't know. This is making me kind of nervous. I don't know what you're doing, bro. But it's happening. So you gotta laugh at this. Donald made his buddies kind of nervous. So let's go into it. Oh boy. Be prepared. Be prepared. Let's get into it.
I'm Vladimir Duthier. We are watching all the news happening in the United States and around the world, and all eyes right now are on Wall Street, where stocks are down sharply once again after the market open. It could be the third straight day of major losses after President Trump announced sweeping tariffs last week. I want to get straight to the news and bring in CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady, who's joining me live right now from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Kelly, looking like this morning is going to be another rough one on the street. What are you hearing from traders?
It is, Vlad. We all lined up to get into the NYSE this morning, and I was just talking to a few investors in line, and the feeling was very much anxious. Not that things are falling off a cliff and that we can't rebound. There was still a little bit of hope amongst folks, but certainly beaten down. And you can see that in how the international markets reacted this morning. You see it in the market right now. And something that I know you and I have talked a lot about before is something we like to call the fear index, the volatility index, the VIX. That actually just hit above 50. Last time I was just looking down at my phone, it dipped below that. But basically what that means is investors expect there to be a lot of uncertainty and volatility over the next 30 days. So Vlad, yes, a lot of fear about today, but a lot of fear about the next month as well.
Oh, so they're scared, right? They're scared because their boy, Donnie, decided, I'm going to do something that's going to affect the American people's pockets. And not in a good way, right? Just so that people know. And Professor Richard Wolff actually educated us on this, right? He's an economist. Tariffs are a type of tax that's levied against other governments for when they want to sell their goods and services here in the United States. Unfortunately, those companies, when they have to take in these products from another country, those companies end up having to pay that tariff, right? Because it doesn't get charged to the government. It gets charged to the middleman, which is the company that's taking the products from the other country, from outside the United States. So let's say let's just hypothetically say, I own a company and I have $1,000 worth of product coming in from China. But the tariffs are, let's say 50%, right? So now I have to pay $1,500 to get those products from China into the United States. Am I going to eat that $500 because it came from China? No, I pass that back on to the consumer. So instead of me eating that $500, I'm going to pass that on to you. So if I sell a shirt for $10 typically, I'm selling that shirt for $15 or maybe even $20 so I can make profit. So I'm going to sell that shirt for $20, right? So then I pay for the production of the shirt, right? I pay for the tariffs on the shirt, and then I make the $5 in profit off that shirt. But who ends up paying for the tariffs if the business owner is passing it on? It's you. It's me. It's everybody. So car companies, you're going to have food companies, IT businesses. Don't forget, Sony is a Japanese company, but could they also have things made in China? What about your Toyotas and your Hondas and your Nissans, right? What if you need a part repaired? Well, you're going to have to pay tariffs in order to get that part. You're going to have to pay tariffs for all these different things. So this is causing volatility in your market because now they're going to have to raise their prices in order to pay for these tariffs because we don't make anything in this country anymore. And people think, oh, well, that just means that it's going to force these companies to come here so that they can bring manufacturing back. They're not coming here. Coming here. You want to know why? Because the United States is only 5% of the world's population. You mean to tell me that instead of coming here for 5% of the world's population, if I'm an international company and then I can just continuously make more money by staying international instead of coming there, and I have all the people that I can get from China, I can sell to all the people in India, I can sell to all the people in Europe, I can sell to all the people in South America, I can sell to people in Africa, I can sell to most of the world without ever having to pay for tariffs. Why would I come back to the United States for that 5%? For that 5% of the market, potential 5% of the market, because not everybody's going to buy everything from you. It doesn't make any sense. Economically, it doesn't make sense. So therefore, all right, fine. We'll just pass the tariffs on to you guys. We're not going to come here and build in the United States. We're going to keep our factories in other places where we can actually pay for cheaper labor. If we can't do it in China, then fine, we'll do it in Vietnam. If we can't do it in Vietnam, we'll do it in Bangladesh. If we can't do it in Bangladesh, we'll do it in Thailand. If we're not going to do it in Thailand, then we'll do it in Sri Lanka. We can't do it in Sri Lanka. All right. Well, let's see what they got going on in Nigeria. Let's see what they're going on in Laos. Let's see what they got going on in Philippines. But they're not going to come back. The United States shouldn't have done what it did with NAFTA by shipping our jobs overseas. But that's what they did. And so this is causing a huge volatility in the market. And even though over 80% of stocks are owned by the top 1%, they're not going to be the ones that's going to be hurting the most. The people who are going to be hurting the most are the people who have like their 401ks and some investments, who are just working class trying to make it. They're the ones that are losing. These rich people, they're going to be fine. But you? No, you're not. So that's one of the reasons why it is a big weekend because I think it fell 2,000 points if I'm correct. 2,000 points on Friday. Was it Thursday or Friday? And then it fell another 1,000 points yesterday. So it dropped by a lot. So let's continue on here.
That's an important number there, Kelly. Of course, the VIX measures volatility in the stock market, and it gives you a sense of how worried investors are, not just about the market, but also a possible recession, which now economists, as you know, and even some prominent bankers are suggesting there's a 50% chance that the United States enters into a recession. Meanwhile, this morning, the president of the United States says on social media, quote, there is no inflation. But as we just pointed out, folks like Jamie Dimon are saying that the tariffs will likely lead to inflation. So help us break down the reality here.
I see there's no consensus among the ruling class. There's no consensus with Donald Trump. Jamie Dimon saying, oh yeah, it's going to lead to inflation. Here's the crazy part. What did Professor Richard Wolff say? He said the United States goes through a recession every 4 to 7 years. The last recession we had was in 2020 during the pandemic. It is now 2025. And we are on time for another recession. Every 4 to 7 years, we have a recession. So a lot of us have been feeling the effects of this early part of the recession for a long time. We've never been able to get out of. Some of us are still struggling to get out of the recession from 2020. Hell, some of us are still struggling to get out of the recession of 2008. And so now a lot of us are going, well, what do we do? Let's continue on just a little bit, and then we'll get into the article.
So the reality is there is inflation. The president saying that there's no inflation, that's simply not true, or potentially, a misturn of phrase. I think what he's referencing is that the last...
A misturn of phrase? Oh, ma'am, just say he's lying. He's lying. Just say he lied. Oh, that's not true. That's just a misturn of phrase. What is this, the whole alternative facts thing again? Come on. My goodness. See, this is the problem with corporate media. Sometimes y'all don't call a thing a thing. You guys just like to spin things to make it seem like, oh, it's nothing but a flesh wound. Just a bit of a flesh wound. It's all right. The hell? Each and every single day, we fall further and further from the grace of God. Oh my gosh, these people. All right, let's.
Turn of phrase. I think what he's referencing is that the last consumer price index reading about a month ago, which was the first under his term, actually saw inflation cooling. That just means that prices are still rising, just slower than they were before. We're going to get another read this Wednesday, so we'll kind of see if that trend continues or we're seeing that tick back up. But really what you are having analysts, CEOs like Jamie Dimon talk about is what could happen, the what if. And that is really what investors are trading on, that sure, the economic data does not say we are in a recession. And in fact, we got a great jobs report on Friday. But what happens if these tariffs do lead to price increases because businesses have to pass that cost on to consumers? Does consumer spending slow down? Does that weaken the economy? So,
yeah. It will. We already we can't afford rent. A lot of people, their housing prices are going higher because the interest rates are getting too high. People, car payments are going up. Credit cards are increasing their interest rates. You know how much it costs just for educate, to put your kid in daycare now? Everything's gone up to the point, and no, wages have not kept up with inflation. So therefore, if it's becoming more expensive, a lot more people are suffering. And here's the thing. You know who's also sounding the alarm? A billionaire is sounding the alarm. Let's go into that. Because, this billionaire, who's also a Zionist, is saying, what the hell? So look, here we go. Billionaires are turning on Trump. Oh my goodness, this is hilarious. Billionaires are turning on Trump. Look, I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna tell you right now. You better get your popcorn ready because this is about to be an event. I don't know about you and me, but watching billionaires turn on Trump is going to be the most hilarious thing ever. Because the billionaires don't feel like he's making America great again. You know what I'm saying? Now you got Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman? Who's going to be next? Harlan Crow? Miriam Adelson? I don't know. But it's fun to watch. Somebody like them looking at him like he's crazy. But he is. Anyway, so let's get into this article really quick. So it says wealthy business leaders are turning on U.S. President Donald Trump over his plans to impose a colossal set of tariffs on America's trading partners as losses mount on stock markets around the world. Billionaire investor Bill Ackman, who endorsed Trump in 2024 presidential bid, warned Sunday that he's going ahead with the new tariffs was tantamount to launching an economic nuclear war. See, and this goes to what I said to Rome earlier. It's that I want to laugh even more, but at the same time, I'm nervous for the average working poor person in America. Because even though I want to be gleeful about the billionaires losing out, about the politicians on both sides of the aisle, really are on the same side. I want to be gleeful about that. They're going to pass that pain over to the rest of us. And that's the problem. This is why we need to know this information so that we can prepare. We need to have a contingency in place for those of us who are the working class. Let's continue on. On Wednesday, Trump said that he would impose significantly higher reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries that had the highest trade imbalances with the United States. On Twitter, I'm still calling it Twitter, Ackman said business and investment will grind to a halt and consumers will close their wallets if the new levies do not come into force. We will severely damage our reputation with the rest of the world. Too late for that. That will take years and potentially decades to rehabilitate. So it says his post was viewed over 10.6 million times. Unless Trump changes track, we are heading for a self-induced economic nuclear winter, and we should start hunkering down. So it says, what CEO and what board of directors will be comfortable making large long-term economic commitments in our country in the middle of an economic nuclear war? said the president is losing the confidence of business leaders around the globe. Capitalists start looking at Donald Trump like, bro, what are you doing? Stop. You said you were going to make America great again. For us. We're supposed to be the Carnegies and the Rothschilds and the Morgans. And you're trying to send us to that poorhouse where we're just multimillionaires instead of billionaires. No. That's what's happening. Let's continue. Already Trump's baseline of 10% tariffs on all goods imported into the United States went into effect on Saturday. And dozens of economies are bracing for even higher levies starting Wednesday, tomorrow. Those harder hit countries include major U.S. trading partners, China and European Union, which face new duties of 34% and 20% respectively. Other billionaires and wealthy business leaders also have openly criticized Trump's tariff agenda in recent days as fear over its economic fallout gripped markets. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, warned Monday that the tariffs threaten to raise prices, drive the global economy into a downturn, and weaken America's standing in the world. Here's the crazy part. You have people who were staunch supporters of Donald Trump saying, oh man, this is going to be great for us. We're going to, it's going to bring back jobs. Meanwhile, the same people, the job creators, are saying this is going to tear us apart. They're scared. I would be celebrating if it wasn't going to be hitting us too. But unfortunately, just like a child that lives in a house with an abusive parent, if the abusive parent loses their home, what happens to the kid? And there's nobody really to come in and save the day for the kid. If the country, you know what I'm saying? This is why the system needs to be torn apart from the inside. But Donald Trump is tearing it apart, and it's going to have blowback on the working class too. Let's continue this. The recent tariffs will likely increase inflation and are causing many to consider a greater probability of a recession. Whether or not the menu of tariffs causes a recession remains in question, but it will slow down growth. This is from Stanley Druckenmiller. What a name! Stanley Druckenmiller. Wow. Founder of the Duquesne family office and investment firm, said that he did not support tariffs exceeding 10%. Druckenmiller is worth an estimated $11 billion, according to a Bloomberg Business Index. Later in the day, Ken Fisher, another billionaire, the founder and executive chairman of Fisher Investments, said what Trump unveiled last Wednesday is stupid, wrong, arrogantly extreme, ignorant trade-wise, and addressing a non-problem with misguided tools. Yet, as near as I can tell, it will fade and fail, and the fear is bigger than the problem, which from here is bullish. And basically said that Trump's tariffs are beyond the pale. Right? Even Elon Musk, the world's richest man and Trump acolyte, says Sunday that he hoped for a zero tariff situation because Europe and the U.S., between Europe and the U.S. In an interview with Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini, Musk said he wanted to see an effective trade-free zone created between Europe and North America. Echoing Ackman, Simon McAdam, Deputy Chief Economist of the consultancy Capital Economics, said businesses were likely to hold off making investments due in large part to sheer uncertainty of Trump's tariff policy. Says that if you're a mid-sized or even a large cap company, you're going to be very hesitant about what to do. If those tariffs are going to be negotiated back down again in a few months' time, then you'll be wasting your time investing potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in new plants. You'll be wasting your time investing potentially in hundreds of millions of dollars in new plants. Plants meaning factories. He shot himself in the foot. We're bringing jobs back. Jobs for who? Jobs for who? See what I mean? You remember when Donald Trump said a few months back, oh, we'll feel a little bit of pain? This is a little bit of pain, right? Meanwhile, a lot of us are already going through a recession because we can't afford rent, groceries, utilities. We can't afford our phone bills hardly. We can't afford car payments. Some of us, have credit cards and we can't pay on those. There's so many people who are suffering right now, and this will add on top of it. And how many people are trying to look for work and they're not getting hired? In his post, Ackman said that new tariffs were massive and disproportionate, saying, "This is not what we voted for." He called for a 90-day timeout in which Trump could negotiate with trading partners to resolve unfair asymmetric tariff deals. The billionaires, the owner class, they said, "This is not what we voted for. We didn't want this." Oh, but you got it. You got it. This is bad. He said Trump has said his tariff agenda is designed to redress years of lopsided trade between America and its partners, caused, in his view, by other countries imposing steeper tariffs on U.S. goods imported into their markets than the U.S. does theirs. But investors are clearly not convinced by the wisdom of Trump's plan. Stock markets in Asia and Europe plunged Monday, and futures pointed towards another bad day for U.S. stocks following Trump's tariffs announcements last Wednesday. So, that being said, it's not looking good. This is why I said Trump's terrible tariffs, because it's a terrible idea, even from a capitalist standpoint, and yet it's gone to shit. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Now, to add insult to injury, let's look at what the European Union is doing. Oh, it gets worse. It gets so much worse. Oh my goodness, y'all. Let me share this article. Trump is... Boy, European Union Commission proposes 25% counter tariffs on some U.S. imports. Document shows. Oh, it's getting bad. Oh. It says the European Commission proposed counter tariffs of 25% on a range of U.S. goods on Monday in response to President Donald Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum, a document sent by Reuters showed. Tariffs on some goods will take effect May 16th and others a year later in the year. On December 1st, the document said. It says the goods are wide-ranging, including diamonds, eggs, dental floss, sausages, and poultry, chicken basically. The counter tariffs on almonds and soybeans will take effect on December 1st. And let me tell you something, there's a lot of soy and a lot of different products. That means a lot of the food that's on the shelves at grocery stores are going to go up because they actually have to pay for that soy. And that soy is going to cost them more, meaning they're going to pass that on to you. It's terrible. Start looking for people who own farms. Start looking to start planting your own crops, people, because let me tell you something, it's about to get bad. All right, so it says the EU trade chief, Marcos Sefcovic, said earlier Monday that the counter tariffs will have less impact than they previously announced, 26 billion euros, which is $28.45 billion. Bourbon, wine, and dairy have been removed from the original list the Commission was weighing in March. The Commission has earmarked 50% tariff on bourbon. So if you want some bourbon, you have to pay extra for it, which had prompted Trump to threaten a 200% counter tariff on European Union alcoholic drinks if the bloc went ahead. This is the biggest international dick measuring contest I have ever seen. That's exactly what this is. Trump in his ego is going to threaten the entire world's economy, especially the United States economy. Oh my goodness. This you gotta laugh to keep yourself from crying. I'm telling you, folks. All right, let's go. Oh my gosh. Does Trump threat worried France and Italy in particular, owing to their significant wine industries. In addition to these counter tariffs, the EU already tightened existing safeguards on steel on April 1st to reduce imports by 15%. The Commission is also looking to import quotas for aluminum. EU member states are due to vote on this proposal on April 9th, which is tomorrow. And it gets worse. Let's go to China. It gets so much worse. Oh, oh my gosh. This is bad. This is very, very bad. This is very, very bad. Very bad. All right. So this is, let me make sure it's up here so you guys can see. All right. Y'all see it. China says it will fight to the end after Trump threatens to impose still more tariffs. Says China said Tuesday it will fight to the end and take countermeasures against the United States to safeguard its own interests after President Donald Trump threatened an additional 50% tariff on Chinese imports. Y'all better watch out right now, because some of them clothes you get from Shein and some of them products you get from Temu are going to become more expensive. They're not going to be as cheap as you thought they were. It's not going to look good for you. All right. It says the Commerce Ministry said that the U.S. imposition of so-called reciprocal tariffs on China is completely groundless and a typical unilateral bullying practice. China, the world's second largest economy, has announced retaliatory tariffs, and the ministry hinted in its latest statement that more may be coming. The countermeasures China has taken are aimed at safeguarding its sovereignty, security, and development interests, and maintaining the normal international trade order. They are completely legitimate. It says the U.S. threat to escalate tariffs on China is a mistake on top of a mistake, and once again exposes the blackmailing nature of the U.S. China will never accept this. If the U.S. insists on its way, China will fight to the end. It says analysts and traders worry about a global trade war. Trump's threat Monday of additional tariffs on China raised fresh concerns that his drive to rebalance the global economy could intensify a financially destructive trade war. Stock markets from Tokyo to New York have become more unstable as the trade war worsens. Trump threat came after China said it would retaliate against U.S. tariffs announced last week. Said if China does not withdraw its 34% increase above their already long-term trading abuses by tomorrow, April 8th, which is today, the United States would impose an additional tariffs on China of 50%, effective April 9th, which is tomorrow. Trump wrote on Truth Social. Additionally, all talks with China concerning their requested meetings with us will be terminated. If Trump implements his new tariffs on Chinese products, U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods will reach a combined 104%. The new taxes will be on top of the 20% tariffs announced as punishment for fentanyl trafficking and a separate 34% tariffs announced last week. Not only could that increase prices for American consumers, it could also give China an incentive to flood other countries with cheaper goods and seek deeper relationships with other trading partners, particularly the European Union. So it's not going to look good, because if they're trying to, strengthen deeper ties with, say, Europe, the United States is actually going to lose whatever grip it's had, especially on the vassal states like the European Union, the G7. The United States is really going to lose. And that hegemony that they thought they were hanging on to, look, what did Princess Leia said? She said, the more you tighten your grip around these star systems, they're going to slip right through your fingers. Guess what? They're slipping. Have you ever tried to grab or grip Jell-O? What happens? Yep. This is what's going on. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to cause more countries to band together against the United States, including former partners. Look, we're already losing Saudi Arabia. They already joined BRICS. Saudi Arabia said, we're not going with y'all no more. We're going over here. BRICS has the most combined GDP of any international bloc, bigger than the G7. Donald Trump is literally escalating the decline of the United States. Like, we knew that this empire was on a decline, but Donald Trump is saying, all right, let's speed this up. Let's speed it up. Like, it's unintentional. But Donald Trump is the equivalent of seeing a house on fire, and he goes, you know what? Alcohol always seems to make my skin feel cooler once I have it on my skin. Let me pour some alcohol on this fire to try to cool it down. What does alcohol do when it's introduced to flames? Now you see. That's basically what's going on now. Oh boy. So this is not good for the working class in this country. There's going to be a lot more hurt. But it's also going to tear down the hegemony that this country has. It's going to tear down, like, this country is already a laughing stock to the world. It's even more. The United States is becoming the world's court jester. Unfortunately, those of us who live in the imperial core, we can't afford to laugh. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.